Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Afterthought, where we talk all things mental health and real life. My name is Roxanne Francis, and I am a clinically trained social worker and a psychotherapist in the general Toronto area. So tonight, we are talking about all the things, well, maybe 7 things, that they did not teach you about in grad school. Things that they didn't teach you about therapy in grad school. If you are a mental health clinician, if you are a therapist, if you are about to graduate, if you are a registered psychotherapist and you're qualifying, if you are in supervision, there are a number of things that they did not teach you about this work in graduate school. And tonight we are just talking about 7 of them because I can't keep y'all here forever. You guys have all other things to do. I'm glad you're here tonight. I'm glad you're here with me right now. Type in the chat, let me know where you're hailing from and how you're doing tonight. I just want to check in and make sure everyone's doing okay. If you're outside getting some sun, I know it's really, really hot outside, but I hope you're enjoying the summer because before you know it, it's going to be snowing. Yes, I said that S word. Anyway, so tonight I want to get in and talk about the things that they did not teach you about in grad school when you're preparing to do this work. And I'm sure that you have come across things in your practice, in your work, as you are working for an organization, or maybe you have your own business, you have your own practice, and you're coming across things and you're like, man, they did not teach me that in school. If there is something that they did not teach you in school that has surprised you about this work, I want you to type it into the chat. So the first thing that they did not teach you about in school in doing this work is how to set up your business, right? How to create a business, where to go if you want to register a business. What is that? They taught you about modalities. They taught you about how to lean in and ask a question properly. They talked to you about how to recognize body language, but they did not teach you about how to set up a business. Maybe they expect us to work for corporations or work for organizations for the rest of our lives. But for those of us who want to start our own businesses, they never taught us anything about that stuff. So have you come across, if you have started your own business, if you're in private practice for yourself, have you come across any of these issues? What was it like when you were setting up your own business? Did you have someone who taught you about this stuff? Did you have someone in your family who was already an entrepreneur? Was your partner, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your mom already in business for themselves, and were they able to teach you some of these things? For some of us who have never had anyone in our families be entrepreneurs, a lot of this stuff is new, and it would have really been helpful if they taught us about some of these things in school. Okay, when you are setting up your business, are you setting it up as a sole proprietor? Are you getting your business incorporated? What do those things mean? What's the difference? And what are the associated costs? There are a number of issues around these things, and it would have been really helpful if they taught us about those things. I'm dropping some of these clues here because these are the things that, well, they won't teach us, but I'm just going to tell you right now that if you want the skinny on this, if you want the juice on this, if you want all the information on this, I encourage you to sign up for my private practice VIP day. All right. The other thing that they didn't teach us about outside of registering your business is they did not teach us about finances. They didn't teach us about taxes. They didn't teach us about how to save for taxes. They don't teach us about how to collect payment. They don't talk to us about the different methods there are of collecting payment. They don't teach us about how to save for our pension, save for vacation, save for maternity leave if you are an entrepreneur. If you're working for a corporation, if you're working for a community agency, that's great. There is a finance department, there's an HR department, and all of that is being taken care of for you. Some money is being taken out of your paycheck, and that's going towards your retirement. There is a maternity leave policy, right? A benefit, right? All those things are very, very helpful. But if you are not working for someone else, this is something that you have to figure out on your own. And it can be really, really daunting. Finances are very scary for many people. But there are different programs out there. There are different ways. There are different systems that you can use to manage your finances. Because the last thing you want is to be owing the government their money, because believe me, they will come for it. Okay. Third thing they did not teach us in school is how to guard against burnout. Now, I must admit that there were maybe one lecture or two around vicarious trauma, around taking care of yourself. But when you're in school, there isn't a lot to worry about as it relates to burnout. But then when you start to do this work, when you start to really connect with people, and as I say, I like to tell people that I absorb everyone's trauma and stress for a living. And when you're doing that, burnout is a real factor that you have to consider. And they don't teach you enough about that, I would say, in school about this. They don't talk to you about things like how many clients are too many, how many hours are you supposed to work, right? I happen to have a friend of mine who was in, you know, she just signed up for my VIP day, and she just said to me, I start at 9 o'clock in the morning and I go to 9 o'clock at night. And I'm like, are you for real right now? Unless you are a nurse, there is no way that you need to be working 12 hours, right? You cannot be available to your clients 12 hours. And she said, well, they rarely book all that time. And I said, well, what happens when that does happen? What happens when your whole day is booked? Then what, right? They don't teach people about how to manage their caseload, right? In school, they don't teach people about how to ensure that you don't have too many clients. How much is enough for a caseload? Well, that depends on how many days per week you work and how many hours per week you work. It's great to get lots of new clients. That's wonderful. But if you keep taking everyone who says, are you available? Are you available? If you keep taking new clients, then what happens is your existing clients have to wait too long in order to come back for another session, right? So they have a session with you today, and then they have to wait 2 months before they can see you again because you have so many clients. So we really have to be careful that we are doing things that not only work for you, but are also in the best interest of your client, so that you don't lose them, and so that they don't lose momentum, and so that they are actually getting the best care possible and the best version of you that's possible. Hey, Natalie. The other thing that I didn't teach you about in terms of burnout is managing your calendar, right? You have to ensure that the hours that you work are best for you. But not only that, but if you have clients that are trauma clients, if you have clients that are grief clients, you want to ensure that you don't have too many of them in one day, because then you become overwhelmed, you become exhausted, and you can't manage, right? So really take a look at your calendar. Take a look, a couple times a week. See who you have, this evening when you're wrapping up your clients, this afternoon when you're wrapping up. Take a look at who is in your calendar for tomorrow. And if you notice that you have 3 of your worst trauma clients, not really worst, but three trauma clients with the heaviest trauma, then you need to reschedule somebody, right? Maybe take up the middle person and put them on Friday afternoon or Monday afternoon. Spread them out throughout the week so that your energy is managed, so that you can manage your flow, your output, so that at the end of the day, you are not overwhelmed and too exhausted, so that you don't want to show up for the other clients tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Okay. Fourth thing that they didn't teach us about in school is anything about systems and administration, right? If you are not familiar with Jane, if you are not familiar with Owl Practice, if you're not familiar with New Talk, I think there's another one called Sync. You want to be mindful of what some of these things are. You need to be aware of, systems like payment systems like how to take notes, how to manage your client information. You want to ensure that you're being FIPA compliant. What is even FIPA, right? It's not a girl on a show on TV. It's not the new Netflix series. It's actually Privacy Health Information Protection Act. Did I get that right? I think I got that right. personal health information. The Personal Health Information Protection Act. If you are a health administrator, if you work in mental health, if you work um, in physical health, in the physical health field, you have to ensure that the records that you're keeping for people are kept in a responsible way, are kept in a way that their medical records, their personal information is protected. The last thing you want is to have a whole caseload of people and then you lose all of their information. That's their address, their phone number, their email, and all of their personal mental health, emotional health information is out there for anyone in the world to find. You want to ensure that the computer that you're working on, that it has enough protection on there so that you're not worried about getting hacked. If you store your information on a cloud-based system, you want to ensure that that is secure. If you are using a USB key, you want to ensure that it's encrypted so that if you lose it, you're not worrying, right? So maybe get a USB key that has a thumbprint access or something else that's really that's properly encrypted so that you don't have to worry about losing your information. Yeah, so you want to ensure that your systems are well taken care of. You want to ensure that the systems that you have are not causing you to work harder. You want to work smarter, right? So that you are saving time, you are saving energy, that you are managing your systems and your life and your work day well. They didn't teach us that in school. The fifth thing, so we're down to number 5. The fifth thing that they did not teach us in school is how to trust yourself and your own soft skills. So, in school, they teach us about the different modalities, the different techniques to work with clients, right? So whether that's, if you're familiar with the mental health field, you're probably familiar with CBT, narrative therapy, DBT, all these, these different kinds of therapies. And, when people come to me for supervision, they'll ask me a lot about these modalities, right? Which one do you use the most? Which is your favorite? Which client do you use which one with? And while it is very important to know all these things, it is very important to be trauma informed. It's very important to be familiar with child development if you work with children. All these things are important. However, the other thing that is important, and I would say is even most important, is your own inner light, I would say, how you build rapport with your clients. Are you able to connect with them well? It's really important. I heard someone say, I'm trying to remember who it was, but I heard someone say recently that you have to see the person before you see the problem, right? See the person before you see the problem. It's really important because the last thing you want is for the client to come to see you and all you're doing is talking about the clinical, what's your diagnosis? Are you taking medication? Follow these 5 steps. It's really important that you get to know the person in front of you. It's really important that you learn to trust your intuition. There are times when you have to put the modalities down and really just talk to the individual like a person, like they are really connected to you. Research has shown that when people make strides in therapy, when people start to heal in therapy, when people start to make emotional and mental health improvement in therapy, that 80% of that improvement is a result of the therapist and client connection and not the kind of therapy that is used in session. So it's not the modality, it's the connection. 80% of the client improvement is based on the connection. They want to see that they're being heard. They want to see that they're being valued. They want to see that they're being respected. They want to see that you consider them and that you're not just asking about, how many times does this happen? Did you do the homework? Yes, that's important, but really the connection. And I'm not sure if they really teach us that in school. It really is all about the different modalities that we're using and make sure you learn them good. And it's important to learn them good because at the end of the day, we are trying to get people to heal and to improve, and we want to give them tools and skills that they can use. But it's really important that we learn to tap into our inner strengths and use that in session. Okay, Number six, the sixth thing that they didn't teach us in school is that you don't need to know everything, or you don't need to be able to fix everyone. You don't need to be able to see everyone. Um, you know, at my last organization that I worked at, they really pushed for us to be generalists. That meant that we should be able to see anyone who walked in through the door. So if a child walked in through the door, if a couple walked in through the door, if someone with a disability walked in through the door, if someone with different cultures from our own walked in through the door, we needed to be able to help serve all of them. And oftentimes, clinicians had skills that were specific to a particular area or a particular kind of demographic, right? And so it's important to know that you don't need to be able to see everyone, or you don't need to be able to work with everyone. It's okay to say, I only work with children. It's okay to say my expertise is in working with women. It's okay to say my expertise is in working with South Asian women. That's okay. My expertise is working with gay men. That's all right. You don't have to be able to see everybody in order to be a good therapist. And you don't have to know everything either. It takes a lot to see everyone and to know everyone, to know everything. And I think it's really, really important to recognize our skills, but also recognize our limitations. Sometimes people call me for a consult and they'll say, this is my issue. And I will say, you know what? That is not my zone of expertise. That is not my area of gifting. However, I do know other clinicians in the field who do have that zone of genius, and I'm going to refer you to them, right? It's okay to give someone a referral, right? The last thing you want is to tell everyone that you can work with all of their issues when you know you can't, and then they walk in through the door, or they, in a virtual world, they get into a virtual session with you and you can't help them and they get worse. We really have to consider our client's best interest, and to be able to say, I don't work in that field, or I don't work in that area, is really just protecting them, because the last thing you want is for your clients to get worse. All right, so we're just about to hit number 7, and so the 7th thing is that they didn't teach us in school is that it's really, really important and crucial to stay connected to other people in the field. You want to stay connected to other therapists. The last thing you want to do is to work in silos. And throughout this pandemic, a lot of therapists are actually on the cusp of burnout, partly because, we've all been sequestered to our homes. I know it's summer and restrictions are lifting in Ontario and people are just now going out and doing the things. But we've been working in silos. We haven't been seeing each other. And people kind of just work in isolation and loneliness. And so when you have a suicidal client, when you have a client who triggers you in your own past trauma or reminds you of a loss that you've had, when you are trying to process that by yourself, it is hard. And so, and it makes you less sharp for your next client. So if you are a therapist watching this now or watching this later, it's really, really important to connect with a group of like-minded people. Connect with people who you can laugh about the work with, because not everybody's going to get this kind of humor. You can't share this with your children if you have children. You can't share this with your partner if you have a partner, or your parents, right? They just won't get it. And so it's really, really important to stay connected in this community. I am so happy that I took my business onto the Instagram, because it allowed me to meet so many cool people, so many amazing therapists. And now I feel like I have this family that I can just reach out to whenever there's an issue or a problem. I reach out and I get support. So it's really, really important to get the support that you need. So let's just recap. One thing that they didn't teach us about in grad school is how to set up your business, whether or not you want to have it be a sole proprietorship or incorporated. A lot of people don't even know what those things are and what the differences are. So that's one thing. Second thing is they didn't teach us anything about finances, anything about, collecting fees, saving for taxes, saving for retirement or a pension. They didn't teach us anything about that stuff, and it has a lot of people scrambling. Third thing they didn't teach us about is how to guard against burnout, how to manage our calendars, and how to manage our caseloads. And again, a lot of people are struggling with burnout because they don't know these things. It's really, really important to get a handle on all that stuff. Fourth thing, they didn't teach us anything about administrative systems, right? How to manage, how to keep our case notes, where to keep them. Do we keep them under our bed somewhere? Do we keep them in a filing cabinet? Do we keep them in a cardboard box or on our computer? Are those things safe? What's the best way? There are lots of systems out there that we can use, but they didn't teach us anything about that. So people are scrambling. Thing 5 that they didn't teach us about was how to trust yourself and your intuition when you're doing therapy. And it has a lot of people, especially new graduates, people who are new to this field, it has them second guessing their own innate skill. It has them feeling like, unless I'm flipping through a textbook, then I don't know anything. And it's really, really important to tap in to that intrinsic knowing that we all have, especially in this field. I have a feeling oftentimes that we didn't choose this field, that this field chose us. And it chose us because of that intrinsic guiding light that we have inside of us. But oftentimes we feel like if we're not using that big, thick DSM, or if we're not using some kind of textbook, and if we're not looking at all of the modalities, that we really don't know anything. Don't forget that that the most important tool in the therapy room is your gut instinct. So don't shy away from that and use it. Number 6 that they didn't teach us is you don't need to know everything, and you don't need to be able to serve everyone. Do not hesitate to really just tap into your niche and refer elsewhere if you need to, right? You don't need to know every modality under the sun. You don't need to know every single training out there. You don't need to have every single textbook out there. Know what you need to know, and then just refer the rest. And then the seventh thing that they did not teach us about is that we must have community in this work. It's the hardest thing to work in silos. We have to connect with each other. We have to connect in supervision or in other small groups, and share with each other, laugh with each other, complain with each other, cry with each other. This is the only way that we're going to have longevity in this field. So I wanted to share these 7 tips with you. And if for some reason you're like, Roxanne, you're right, they didn't teach me anything about those things, and I still don't know anything about those things, and I want to know about these things, and I'm about to start my private practice and I feel out of my depth, feel free to get in touch with me, slide into my DMs, send me your email address, and maybe I'll send you an application form, and you can see whether or not you are eligible for my private practice VIP day. That's where I spend a 4-hour day with you, and I give you all these tools that you need to get your private practice off the ground. So if you need this information, by all means, jump into my DM, send me your email address. I'll send you an application form, and we'll see for a match. I hope this information was useful. If you're watching this after the fact, I hope it's useful for you. Let me know what you think, and we will connect soon. I will be here again next Wednesday at 8 for more Afterthought. You guys take care. Have a great night. Take care of your mind, because you only have one. Cheers. Bye.